Hey everybody, this is Bill. It's that time of year, and in this video, we're talking college football. We will provide a link in the description to our preseason top 25 and All-American team for your review, but in this video, we will offer the predicted finish and preview of the Southeastern Conference. Now, this is the game's top conference, with what appears to be a contenders within it. But there are also plenty of stellar teams in both divisions. So let's take a look at the conference. We'll get this started over in the East. So at 7th, we have Vanderbilt. Now, we know Coach Clark Lee said it would only be a matter of time before Vandy wins the SEC, but we'll let you in on a little secret. It won't be this year or anytime soon. But there is optimism associated with the program, and rightfully so. The concept they're running with on offense, we find that strong. And Mike Wright is going to lead a talented group of quarterbacks. Now, the top rusher returns, as do a slew of top receivers and the top 4 tacklers from 2021. So Vanderbilt will be improved. Now, no, there are not a lot of handful of 5-star players on this team, but the Doors do a fine job of handling their business within themselves. They're better than you think, but they're our last place finisher in the East. 6th, we have Missouri, but the Tigers are another dangerous team. Now, Missouri's going to go with Brady Cook at quarterback. 5-star freshman wideout Luther Burden seems locked to be a huge weapon for Missouri on offense, which does return production. Now, 4 of the starting line return also, led by tackle Javen Foster. Now, 8 defenders are back on the stop side, including 7 of the top 8 tacklers in 2021. Now, a non-conference game at Kansas State is interesting, and seemingly a measuring stick for the early success there of the program. Now, Mizzou is a work in progress, but this team has enough young talent to be a dangerous out. The treacherous SEC schedule will remain a tall hurdle for the Tigers. At 5th, we have South Carolina, likely a year or so away. With the addition of former Oklahoma quarterback Spencer Rattler, the Gamecocks could serve early notice on some folks. Now, they return a ton on offense. Top recruit Marshawn Lloyd will battle Wake Forest transfer Christian Beal-Smith at running back. And Josh Vann leads a strong receiving corps. They got some experience up on the line as well. Nickelback Cam Smith leads the defensive unit, which has 5 starters returning, and is an emerging unit under Beamer Ball. Now, the non-con is spread throughout the schedule, but it is 3 easy wins. Early tilts at Arkansas and hosting Georgia, they spell trouble. A roadie at Kentucky before a midseason bye would score a big win for the Gamecocks. Now, Rattler has the potential to light the scoreboard up, but the season will ride on how much quality depth and increased level of performance we see on the defensive side. So Rattler, again, going to give the Cocks a chance in most games, but under Beamer Ball, South Carolina will continue to improve. 4th in the East, we cautiously picked the Florida Gators, who are in the midst of a coaching staff transition. Now, we think Billy Napier is the right hire here, but the Gators do have some holes. For the Gators to exceed expectations, quarterback Anthony Richardson, whose talent level has a sky-high ceiling, he will have to catapult the Gators higher. Richardson's short on experience, but he does have an NFL skill set. So coming with Napier from Louisiana is Osiris Torrance, an All-America candidate on the offensive line. Now, the Gators have quality backs, and Justin Shorter, he leads the receiving corps. They're also bringing in Arizona State transfer Ricky Pearsall, who's very talented. Now, recently, the Gators seem to have lost their way defensively. Stout for decades, improvement is needed on this side of the ball. Gervin Dexter, he anchors the line, and they got a pair of linebackers in Ventrell Miller and Brenton Cox who are going to be roaming the field. An excellent safety, and Terry Dean is in the secondary. Now, there's talent here, but there's a shortage of quality depth and experience. Now, a top 5 Utah team comes to Florida in the heat of the swamp, and that gives the Gators an opportunity to place a bite on the national stage. If they can win that, they'll build some momentum. Kentucky visits early. That's a key divisional contest before the Gators go up to Rocky Top. They could be 4-0, they could be 1-3, or somewhere in between, but that's going to set the season for the Gators. Now, the future should be bright, but we think Florida's a year or 2 away from contention. That is, unless Anthony Richardson is the 3rd pick in the NFL draft, as some prognosticate. 3rd in the East, we have the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, you really have to appreciate the job Mark Stoops has done at Kentucky. He's guided the Cats to a pair of 10-win seasons within the past 5 seasons. The main takeaway is the roster is strong and Kentucky's not going anywhere, well positioned to compete in the SEC East, at least for second. Now the gap behind powerful Georgia is deep, but Kentucky's there with Tennessee and Florida. Offensively, Kentucky's set to do some damage. Will Levis, who had a solid season last year, is primed to raise the level of his game. Running back Chris Rodriguez is an All-American candidate, and he should eclipse 1,000 yards again with ease, even in the vaunted SEC. Now, Kentucky lost a good deal of receiving production, but returns plenty of talent. They've had very strong lines of scrimmage in the past, but this one is young. We have Tennessee second in the East. Now, while Tennessee was only 7-6 a year ago, including a wild Music City Bowl loss, there were promising signs in what was seemingly an average season. Offensively, Tennessee was lit, and the catalyst of that unit returns. Hendon Hooker was firing darts when healthy, 31 touchdowns against 3 interceptions. Imagine his encore with an additional year in the Josh Heupel system. Now, Jabari Small is back after leading the team in rushing. Rising junior Cedric Tillman, who's an all-SEC at a minimum player, he was ridiculous last fall, leading the team with 12 touchdowns. They also bring in former USC high 5-star recruit Brew McCoy, who's having trouble finding the right home. Now, the offensive line is not a top unit, but 4 starters return. It's quite good enough for the rest of the offense to continue to click. Now, defensively, the Vols need a great deal of improvement, having given up almost 30 points a game last year, but they do have promise. 7 starters return, including the owner of the defensive stat sheet, outside linebacker Jeremy Banks, who had 128 stops and 11.5 tackles for loss. Good grief. Now, as good as Banks was, middle linebacker Aaron Beasley was stout as well. He was second on the team in stops. Now, Tennessee travels to face Pitt early in a non-con. They get the Gators, Alabama, and Kentucky at home, but they do go on the road to Georgia. A favorable schedule and a prolific offense could see the Vols make a national splash in 2022. We have the Georgia Bulldogs winning an improved East Division. The Bulldogs solved some early offensive issues at quarterback and receiver last year, riding a nasty defensive unit to avenge a loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game and win the first national championship for the Bulldogs since 1980. It was a great year for Dog Nation. Now, much of that defensive unit is in the National Football League, but the Dogs will still bite you. There are only 3 returning starters on the stop side, but that's included on that group. A star at each level of the unit. Defensive tackle Jalen Carter, linebacker Nolan Smith, and safety Keely Ringo. All honors candidate defenders. Now, offensively, there's quite a bit to like. Stetson Bennett, who continues to play very well, he returns. He was stellar against great competition. He demonstrated that last year in the college football playoff final. Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton will fight it out at running back. They have a great receiving core. There is talent around. Tight end Brock Bowers is our first-team All-America tight end. He's back. He had 13 scores last year. He gives opposing offensive coordinators fits. Warren Erickson is an offensive line honors candidate as well at guard. Now, Georgia will be favored in every single game. We think they march to the SEC championship game undefeated to probably face Alabama, and from there we'll see about them reaching the college football playoff. But we do have them ranked 3rd in the country in the preseason, and again, SEC East champions for 2022. All right, so let's jump over to the SEC West. Now, we all know the SEC is without question. This division's the toughest in college football, and winning it should secure the champion a spot in the college football playoff. Is Alabama still king, or can someone derail them? Well, in seemingly a shocking prediction, we have the Auburn Tigers in the West cellar. There's turmoil on the plains, with moves already being made to oust new coach Brian Harsin. Now, legacy quarterback Bo Nix, he transferred to Oregon, leaving the Tigers in the hands of TJ Finley, unless Texas Aggie transfer Zach Calzada can unseat him. The backfield is very strong with 1,000-yard rusher Tank Bigsby. Hendrick Jackson leads the pass catchers, and the offensive line is good. Edge rusher Derek Hall is outstanding, and new linebacker Owen Popo is a future star. The secondary's got talent, but they're inexperienced. 2 easy tune-ups get Auburn ready to host Penn State in a critical game. If they can win that could give them some fuel to the fire. But the Tigers will be tough, but given the inner turmoil and some open holes that they have, they don't seem strong enough to contend in the SEC West this year. At 6th, we have LSU. We're not sure if we buy the fit for Brian Kelly at LSU, so even though the Tigers have plenty of top talent, this could take some time to get sorted. Given that, we excluded this very talented football team from our preseason top 25. However, this talented team could well finish in the top 15 before it's all over. Now, Kelly will work with talented, dual-threat Arizona State transfer quarterback Jaden Daniels. The top 5 receivers return, led by All-America player Kayshon Boutte, who's just outstanding. Now, LSU's got 2 talented running backs, but the offensive line is in a bit of a shakiness. On the stop side, the defensive front is among the nation's best. Micah Baskerville and Mike Jones are outstanding linebackers, and Jay Ward is a conference candidate in the secondary. The outstanding kicking game LSU's employed over the years is in a work of progress this year, so the guaranteed field goal may not be this year. Now, LSU's transitional effort faces a tough early test with Florida State and New Orleans. Hail State is in town week 3 to start the SEC slate. It's going to be interesting to see how Kelly works on the Bayou and how quickly he can get a buy-in if he can get one. We're not even sure that works, but even if it does, we think it gets off a bit slowly. Couple that with the historically tough slate of the SEC, we got the Tigers failing to take advantage of their high level of talent, this year anyway. We have Mississippi State 5th in the SEC West. Folks, look out. We thought long and hard about placing the Bulldogs in our top 25, and we ain't kidding. Mike Leach has a strong offense on tap with Will Rogers firing darts. 3 of the top 4 pass catchers return, as well as the top 3 rushers. Now, the line returns 3 starters and is decent. The front on defense is experienced, with tough linebacker Tyrus Wheat and cornerback Emmanuel Forbes leading this pesky unit. Although 18 overall starters return, the schedule is menacing. They have a home opener against Memphis, a roadie at improving Arizona, before things open up for the Bulldogs in the SEC West. They also got a road game at Kentucky and a home game against Georgia. Now, this is a very dangerous football team, and we would not want to play these guys, but it will be hard for Hail State to crack the top 25 with this schedule. 4th, we have Ole Miss. Even though there are significant personnel losses, Ole Miss has reload characteristics and is ready to compete for another New Year's Six Bowl. 4-star quarterback Luke Altmaier, who quarterbacked Ole Miss in the majority of the bowl game after starter Matt Corral was knocked out, he returns and he had a decent spring. But Lane Kiffin brought in 5-star USC transfer Jackson Dart, who is probably ultimately expected to win the job. Now, Dart threw for 9 scores and 1,400 yards of passes there at USC before injury knocked him out, but he displayed flashes of brilliance. The running back room for Ole Miss suffered big losses, but Kiffin brought in Zach Evans from TCU. This guy's a 5-star recruit. He's got vast potential. He ran for 1,000 yards last year for the Frogs, so look for him to thrive. The receiving corps is led by Jonathan Mingo. He's an honors candidate. They also brought in UCF transfer Jalen Robinson and Louisville transfer Jordan Watkins. They also brought in USC transfer Michael Trigg at tight end, and he's expected to be a big playmaker. Now, the offensive line has a bunch of talent, so look out on offense for Ole Miss again. Now, the defense is not necessarily the Rebels' strong suit. There are no surefire conference candidates here for honors, but they will be active and decent. They got a great secondary with A.J. Finley and Otis Reese, so those 2 guys can make things happen for Ole Miss. Now, they have time to grow early before Kentucky and Auburn come to visit Oxford. There are just too many holes, though, I think, for Ole Miss to contend. But they do remain quite capable. They should not be taken lightly, and they're reloading. They're dangerous. 3rd in the West, we have Sam Pittman's Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, Pittman and Arkansas are tough, and they've won some big games. Just ask those Texas Aggies about that. Expect much of the same in 2022. On offense, sophomore quarterback sensation K.J. Jefferson returns after an impressive season. He makes plays, even with his feet. While All-America wide receiver Treylon Burks is certainly going to be missed, they welcome Oklahoma transfer Jaden Hasselwood. He's arrived, as has Georgia transfer Matt Landers, so they've got some help there at receiver. Ricky Stromberg up front for the Hogs is an All-America candidate on the offensive line. 3 starters return up there. The Hogs look proficient on offense. On the stop side, they're short on returning players, but plenty of talented and experienced players return. So don't worry about the D. Bumper Poole led the Hogs in stops from his linebacker position in 2021. He's back and he's an honors candidate. Drew Sanders is an Alabama transfer, so he's going to be a handful. The secondary is the team's strength. Jason Catalon, who's going to challenge for All-America honors, is going to patrol the secondary from his safety spot. This is a deep and talented group on the stop side, and so opposing coordinators are going to have some sleepless nights. But the Hogs again have a murderous schedule. They open hosting Cincinnati, who was in the playoff last year. By Halloween, the Hogs are going to have South Carolina and Alabama at home and face Texas A&M and Arlington and travel to Mississippi State and Brigham Young. Ouch! They got roadies at at Auburn. In Missouri, they come in, and then there's Liberty, Ole Miss, and then LSU. Good heavens, fasten the chin strap out there in Hogville. Now, this is a really good football team, but even in a best-case scenario with that schedule, it looks like there's got to be at least 3 losses. We'll go 8-4 for the Hogs, but we wouldn't want to play them, that's for sure. Second in the West, we have the Texas A&M Aggies. Now, you bet Jimbo Fisher's a quarterback guru and a well-respected offensive mind, but when we think about this group from Aggieland, we're compelled to reflect back to the old days of the Wrecking Crew. This group is just as salty, with former Maryland coach D.J. Durkin leading the unit. The secondary is the strong point, and we can start with safety Antonio Johnson, who's an All-America candidate. A&M does need a quarterback. They're transferring in Max Johnson from LSU, who's got FSU ties with Fisher through his dad, Brad Johnson. Johnson could excel with Fisher's tutelage. Running back Devin Arcane shined as a freshman. He looks to be the real deal. Look for him to challenge for honors. Aeneas Smith is a potential All-American player at wide receiver also, and the line is strong, with Layden Robinson and Bryce Foster leading the way. Now, the defense is the calling card. Factoring in the anticipated quarterback play, however, we think the offense will be quite productive as well. So A&M hosts Miami early and Florida later, but they also host Ole Miss and LSU and have a neutral site game with Arkansas, along with roadies at Mississippi State and revenge-minded Alabama. I don't think anybody's going to miss this game with Alabama. So, folks, we think A&M is very good, but this slate portends 1, if not 2 losses, and they're going to be second in the SEC West. We have Alabama Crimson Tide finishing first in the West. Alabama is our national preseason #1 team here in 2022, behind a veteran team of 5-star players, including what we consider among the best players in the nation on both sides of the ball, in quarterback Bryce Young and linebacker Will Anderson. Now, Alabama grew on offense down the stretch behind Young, who emerged to win the Heisman Trophy. Young is poised to continue to elevate his game, and he will have plenty of weapons to utilize. Folks, watch Jahmyr Gibbs, an electric and versatile running back who has transferred in from Georgia Tech. We expect fireworks from this young man. At wideout, Georgia transfer Jermaine Burton is a national honors candidate, but the experience and depth behind him is a bit thin. But folks, this is Alabama. All-America candidate Emil Ekiyor anchors the offensive line that is a work in progress. Now, defensively, Alabama will be extremely challenging for opposing coordinators. Will Anderson, again, is as good a player as we've seen on the stop side in a decade or so. There are All-America candidates at linebacker, which includes rising sophomore Dallas Turner, who could be the next superstar on the Crimson Tide defensive unit. The secondary is stacked. A pair of All-America players and transfer cornerback Eli Ricks from LSU and standout safety Jordan Battle. Now, although this is a rough slate, we think Alabama makes it and lands in the SEC championship game undefeated against Georgia. We think they win that. We think they go to the playoff and win that. And we have Alabama as not only our pick in the SEC West, but as 2022 national champions. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our 2022 SEC thoughts. We've got Georgia and Alabama meeting in the championship game. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave us some comments on how you see this conference unfolding. Is there a dark horse? Could Mississippi State get involved? LSU, what about all their talent? Can Anthony Richardson lift Florida up? What about Tennessee? How many points are they going to score? They could be unstoppable. If they get any kind of defense going, good grief. So, folks, anyway, we'd love to hear what you think. Please think about following us over on Facebook at The Color and Pageantry. We invite you to like the video and subscribe to our page. But we really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.